The December wind cut through my thin jacket like knives as I huddled beneath the bridge overpass, my swollen belly the only warmth I had left in this frozen world. 6 months pregnant, homeless, and completely alone. This wasn't how I'd imagined my life would turn out when I'd fallen in love with Jake 3 years ago. My name is Emma, and I'm a white wolf, one of the weakest designations in our pack hierarchy. White wolves are rare, but not in a good way. We're considered cursed, unlucky, and most of all, powerless. My wolf, Luna, barely had the strength to shift anymore, especially now that I was carrying a pup. Just hold on a little longer, I whispered to my unborn child, wrapping my arms around my stomach. Mama's going to figure something out. But the truth was, I had no idea what I was going to do. I'd been living on the streets for 2 weeks now, ever since my boyfriend Jake, the pack's beta and father of my child, had kicked me out of his apartment. The memory of that night still burned like acid in my chest. You can't seriously expect me to claim that thing, Jake had sneered, pointing at my belly with disgust. Everyone knows white wolves breed weakness. I'm about to be promoted to the alpha's inner circle. I can't have a defective pup dragging down my reputation. But Jake, you said you loved me, I'd cried, reaching for him desperately. This is our baby. Our child. He'd grabbed my wrist so hard it bruised, his eyes cold and merciless. I said what I needed to say to get what I wanted. Did you really think someone like me would end up with someone like you? You were just convenient, Emma. A warm body when I needed one. Then he'd thrown me out into the hallway with nothing but the clothes on my back and $20. That was 2 weeks ago, and I'd been surviving on the streets ever since. That $20 long gone on a single night in a roach-infested motel and a few meals from the gas station. The cold was unbearable tonight, seeping through my bones and making my teeth chatter uncontrollably. I tried to shift into my wolf form for warmth, but Luna was too weak. The pregnancy had drained what little strength my white wolf possessed. I'm sorry, Luna, I whispered to my wolf. I'm so sorry I can't protect you or our pup. Luna whimpered in my mind, a sound of pure exhaustion and despair. We were dying, slowly, painfully dying in the freezing December night. That's when I heard the footsteps. My body tensed instinctively, preparing to run despite my exhaustion. Nothing good ever came from encounters on the streets at night, especially for a pregnant woman alone. I pressed myself further back into the shadows beneath the bridge, holding my breath. But the footsteps didn't pass. They stopped right at the entrance to my makeshift shelter. There's someone under here, a deep male voice said, rich with authority and power that made my wolf sit up and take notice despite her weakness. A female. She's pregnant and hypothermic. Your Majesty, we should keep moving, another voice responded, this one female and distinctly annoyed. The council meeting starts in an hour and you can't be late again. Cancel it, the male voice commanded. This woman needs immediate medical attention. Before I could process what was happening, a figure crouched down and entered my shelter beneath the bridge. Even in the darkness, I could see him clearly. Tall, powerfully built, with jet black hair and eyes that glowed with an otherworldly silver light. The aura of power radiating from him was so intense that it took my breath away. An alpha. No, not just any alpha. This was Alpha King Damian Blackwood, ruler of all the packs in the Northern Territory. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to submit, to bow my head and show respect to someone so far above my station. But I was too cold, too exhausted, too defeated to do anything but stare at him with wide, frightened eyes. Please don't hurt my baby, I whispered, the only words I could manage through my chattering teeth. Something flashed across his face, an emotion I couldn't quite identify. Anger? No, something softer, something that looked almost like pain. I'm not going to hurt you or your pup, he said gently, removing his thick winter coat and wrapping it around my shoulders. The coat was so large it engulfed me completely, and the warmth was instantaneous and overwhelming. I nearly sobbed with relief. "My name is Damien. What's yours?" Emma," I managed, pulling his coat tighter around myself. It smelled incredible. Pine and winter frost and something distinctly masculine that made my wolf perk up with interest. "Emma," he repeated, and the way he said my name made something flutter in my chest. "Can you stand? I need to get you somewhere warm immediately." I tried to push myself up, but my legs had gone numb from the cold. I barely made it an inch before collapsing back down. Before I could even blink, Damien had scooped me up into his arms as easily as if I weighed nothing, cradling me against his chest. "Your Majesty, this really isn't appropriate," the female voice from before protested. I could see her now, a beautiful woman with dark hair and a designer suit, glaring at me with obvious disdain. "You can't just pick up random homeless wolves off the street. What will the council say?" "The council can say whatever the hell they want," Damien growled, and the power in his voice made even me shiver despite being in his arms. "This woman is under my protection now. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me directly." He carried me to a sleek black car waiting nearby, settling me into the warm interior with surprising gentleness. The contrast between the freezing bridge and the heated car was so stark that I started shaking even harder as my body tried to adjust. "We're going to the palace," Damien instructed the driver. "Call Dr. Martinez and tell him I need him in my personal quarters immediately. Pregnant female, advanced hypothermia, possible malnutrition." "Your personal quarters?" the dark-haired woman gasped. "Your Majesty, you can't be serious. The appropriate place would be the Pack Hospital or the Omega dormitories. Not your private—" Did I stutter, Charlotte? Damien's voice was ice. "My personal quarters. Now." The drive to the palace was a blur. I drifted in and out of consciousness, vaguely aware of Damien's hand on my forehead, his voice murmuring soothing words I couldn't quite make out. At some point, I felt him lift me again, carrying me through grand hallways that my foggy brain couldn't quite process. When I finally came fully aware again, I was lying in the most comfortable bed I'd ever felt in my life. The room was enormous, decorated in rich dark woods and deep blues, with a fireplace crackling warmth across from the bed. An older man with kind eyes was pressing a stethoscope to my belly, his expression focused. "The pup's heartbeat is strong," Dr. Martinez said, relief evident in his voice. "She's going to be fine with proper care and nutrition. The mother, however, is severely malnourished and was minutes away from serious frostbite. Another hour in those conditions, and we'd be looking at a very different outcome." "But they're both going to be okay?" Damien asked, and I was surprised by the genuine concern in his voice. "With rest, proper meals, and warmth? Yes. I'll want to monitor her closely for the next few days, but I see no reason why she and the pup can't make a full recovery." I tried to sit up, suddenly aware that I was in the Alpha King's personal quarters, lying in what had to be his bed. "I should go," I said weakly. "I'm sorry for the trouble, I'll just—" "You're not going anywhere," Damien said firmly, gently pressing me back down onto the pillows. "You're staying here where we can make sure you and your pup are safe." "But I can't—" I started to protest. "Yes, you can," he interrupted. "And you will." "That's not a request, Emma. That's an order from your Alpha King." I should have been terrified. I should have been suspicious of his motives. But something in his eyes made me feel safer than I had in months. Maybe it was the exhaustion, or the relief of finally being warm, but I found myself nodding and sinking back into the impossibly soft pillows. "Thank you," I whispered, my eyes already drifting closed. The last thing I remembered before sleep claimed me was Damien's hand gently brushing hair back from my forehead, and his voice, soft as a promise. You're safe now. I've got you. If you're wondering what happens when a broken Omega finds sanctuary with the most powerful Alpha in the territory, you're not alone. Subscribe and turn on notifications because Emma's story is just beginning, and trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. I woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, momentarily disoriented by the unfamiliar surroundings. For a blissful moment, I thought maybe the last few weeks had been a horrible nightmare. Then reality came crashing back, and I sat up abruptly, looking around the luxurious bedroom with growing panic. This was real. I was actually in the Alpha King's palace, in his personal quarters, in what appeared to be his bed. "Easy," a gentle voice said, and I turned to see a young woman with kind eyes approaching with a breakfast tray. "You've been asleep for almost 16 hours. Dr. Martinez said you needed the rest." "Where's—" I started, then stopped, not sure how to refer to the Alpha King. "His Majesty is in a council meeting," the woman said, setting the tray across my lap. The smell of food made my stomach growl loudly. "He left strict instructions that you were to eat as soon as you woke up. I'm Marie, by the way. I've been assigned as your personal attendant." "My personal attendant?" I repeated, staring at the spread before me. Fresh fruit, scrambled eggs, bacon, toast, and orange juice. It was more food than I'd seen in weeks. "I don't understand. Why is the Alpha King doing all this for me?" Marie smiled mysteriously. "His Majesty has his reasons. Now please, eat. You need to rebuild your strength for the little one." I didn't need to be told twice. I dove into the food, trying not to eat too quickly despite my ravenous hunger. Everything tasted incredible, and I had to fight back tears at the simple luxury of a warm, filling meal. "There are clothes in the closet," Marie said after I'd eaten my fill. "His Majesty had them brought in this morning. They should fit you. He also wanted me to tell you that you're free to move about the palace, though he requests that you stay within the residential wing until he returns." "When will that be?" I asked, oddly disappointed at his absence. "The council meetings can run long, but he said he'd check on you as soon as he was finished. In the meantime, is there anything you need? Anything I can get for you?" I looked down at my dirty clothes, suddenly very aware of how I must look and smell after 2 weeks on the streets. Is there somewhere I could take a shower?" Marie's smile widened. "Of course. The bathroom is through that door. I'll lay out some fresh clothes for you while you wash up." The bathroom was as luxurious as the bedroom, all marble and gold fixtures with a shower that could fit 4 people comfortably. I spent a long time under the hot water, washing away weeks of grime and fear, watching the dirt and despair circle down the drain. It felt like I was washing away the old Emma, the one who'd been discarded and abandoned, and finding someone new underneath. When I emerged, wrapped in a towel softer than anything I'd ever felt, I found Marie had laid out a beautiful maternity dress in a soft blue color. It fit perfectly, accommodating my swollen belly while still looking elegant and put together. "How did he know my size?" I asked, running my hands over the soft fabric. "His Majesty is very observant," Marie said with that same mysterious smile. "Now, would you like a tour of the residential wing? You should know your way around." She showed me through hallways lined with paintings and tapestries, pointing out the library, the conservatory, the various sitting rooms and parlors. Everything was beautiful and grand, a far cry from my life on the streets, or even the modest apartment I'd shared with Jake. "Why is he doing this?" I asked again as we walked through a sun-filled conservatory filled with winter flowers. "The Alpha King doesn't just take in random homeless wolves. There has to be a reason." Marie's expression turned serious. "That's something you'll have to ask His Majesty yourself. But I will say this. In all the years I've worked in the palace, I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looked at you last night when he carried you in. Whatever his reasons, they're genuine." Before I could process that statement, a commotion erupted from the hallway. Charlotte, the woman from last night, stormed into the conservatory with several other well-dressed wolves behind her. "There you are," Charlotte sneered, looking me up and down with obvious contempt. "Playing dress-up in clothes you didn't earn, sleeping in a bed you have no right to. Do you have any idea what you've done?" I... I don't understand," I stammered, taking a step back instinctively. "Of course you don't." Charlotte laughed coldly. "Let me spell it out for you, Omega. The Alpha King has canceled meetings, rearranged his entire schedule, and caused a scandal in the council, all because he picked up a pregnant stray off the streets. Do you know what the other packs are saying? They're saying he's gone soft, weak, all because of you." "That's enough, Charlotte," Marie said firmly, stepping between us. "You're out of line." "Am I?" Charlotte's eyes flashed with anger. "Or am I the only one willing to say what everyone's thinking? This little white wolf, nobody is going to ruin everything His Majesty has built. The council is already questioning his judgment. How long before they start questioning his right to rule?" Each word hit me like a physical blow. She was right. I had no right to be here, accepting the Alpha King's charity, causing problems for someone who'd shown me nothing but kindness. "I should leave," I said quietly, my hands instinctively moving to protect my belly. "You're right. I don't belong here." "Finally, some sense," Charlotte said smugly. "I'll have someone escort you out. No one is going anywhere." Damien's voice cut through the conservatory like a blade, and everyone instantly fell silent. He stood in the doorway, still dressed in his formal council attire, his eyes blazing with silver fire as he stared at Charlotte. "Your Majesty, I was just—" Charlotte started. "You were just harassing my guest," Damien said, his voice deadly calm. "In my home, after I explicitly stated she was under my protection. But Your Majesty, the council works for me, Charlotte. Not the other way around, and you—" He turned to look at me, and his expression softened. "You have every right to be here. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." He crossed the room in a few long strides, stopping right in front of me. "Are you all right?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. Up close, in the daylight, he was even more striking than I remembered. Tall and powerfully built, with chiseled features and those incredible silver eyes that seemed to see right through me. "Good," he said, then turned back to Charlotte. "You're dismissed from your position as my senior advisor, effective immediately. Clean out your office." Charlotte's face went white. "Your Majesty, you can't be serious. I've served you faithfully for 5 years. And in those 5 years, I've tolerated your political maneuvering and your ambitious schemes because you were good at your job. But the moment you decided to harass a pregnant woman under my protection, you crossed a line. Get out of my sight before I decide to take further action." Charlotte opened her mouth to protest, then seemed to think better of it. She shot me one last venomous look before stalking out of the conservatory, the other wolves trailing behind her like a defeated army. The silence that followed was deafening. "I'm sorry," I said finally, my voice small. "She was right. I'm causing problems for you. I should go." "Emma, look at me," Damien said gently, tilting my chin up so I had to meet his eyes. "You're not causing problems. Charlotte was causing problems. You're just existing, and you have every right to do that in safety and comfort. But the council will do as they're told. And if they don't, I'll remind them exactly why I'm the Alpha King." His thumb brushed across my cheek, and I realized with surprise that I was crying. "You've been hurt enough. I won't let anyone hurt you here. That's a promise." I wanted to believe him so badly it hurt. But years of being told I was worthless, that white wolves were cursed and weak, that I deserved whatever happened to me. Those beliefs didn't just disappear because one person was being kind. "Why are you doing this?" I whispered, echoing the question I'd asked Marie earlier. You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. So why? Damien was quiet for a long moment, his silver eyes searching my face as if trying to decide how much to tell me. Finally, he said, because the moment I caught your scent beneath that bridge, my wolf recognized you. Because when I looked into your eyes, I saw someone who'd been broken by the cruelty of others, but was still fighting to protect their pup. Because he paused, then continued more softly. Because I know what it's like to be told you're not good enough, and I swore that if I ever had the power to change that for someone else, I would. His words hung in the air between us, heavy with meaning I wasn't sure I fully understood. But there was a sincerity in his eyes that made something in my chest tighten. Thank you, I said, and this time I meant it with my whole heart. Thank you for saving us. You don't need to thank me, Damien said, his hand still cupped against my cheek. Just stay. Let me help you. Let me make sure you and your pup are safe and cared for. That's all I ask. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak past the lump in my throat. For the first time in weeks, I felt a tiny flutter of hope. Maybe, just maybe, things were going to be okay. The question is, how long can a white wolf omega hide in the shadow of an alpha king before the entire pack comes calling? If you want to see what happens when Sanctuary turns into something far more complicated, don't forget to like this video and hit that subscribe button. Over the next few weeks, I settled into a routine at the palace that felt surreal in its normalcy. I woke each morning in Damien's bedroom. He'd insisted I stay there while he took one of the guest rooms, despite my protests, to breakfast delivered by Marie. Then I'd spend my days exploring the residential wing, reading in the library, or sitting in the conservatory watching the winter garden. Dr. Martinez checked on me every other day, monitoring my pregnancy and making sure I was gaining weight properly. My pup was thriving, growing strong and healthy with proper nutrition and care. Luna, my wolf, was slowly regaining her strength as well, no longer silent and weak in my mind. But the best part of my days was the evenings, when Damien would return from his council meetings and duties. He'd find me wherever I was, usually curled up in the library with a book, and we'd have dinner together in his private dining room. At first, our conversations were careful and surface level. He'd ask about my day, I'd ask about his work, and we'd dance around any deeper topics. But slowly, as the days turned into weeks, we began to open up to each other. Tell me about your family, Damien asked one evening over dinner, then immediately looked apologetic. I'm sorry. You don't have to if you don't want to. It's okay, I said, pushing food around my plate. There's not much to tell. My parents died when I was young, a rogue attack. I grew up in the Pack orphanage, and when I turned 18, I was on my own. Is that when you met Jake? His voice was carefully neutral, but I saw his jaw tighten at the mention of my ex. A year later, I was working at a diner, and he came in one day. He was charming, confident, everything I wasn't. I couldn't believe someone like him would be interested in someone like me. I laughed bitterly. Turns out I was right to be skeptical. He's a fool, Damien said quietly. Anyone who would reject their own child because of prejudice about wolf color is worse than a fool. They're a coward. White wolves really are. Weak, though, I said, repeating what I'd been told my entire life. Everyone knows that. Luna can barely shift now, and even before the pregnancy, she was nothing compared to normal wolves. That's not true. Damien set down his fork, looking at me intently. White wolves are rare, yes, but they're not weak. They're different. Your kind has abilities that other wolves don't. I stared at him. What do you mean? Has no one ever taught you about white wolf abilities? When I shook my head, he continued. White wolves have stronger healing capabilities than other designations. They're also more sensitive to emotions and pack bonds. They make exceptional mediators and counselors. The reason Luna feels weak isn't because she is weak, Emma. It's because you've never been taught how to use her strengths properly. I felt tears prickling at my eyes. No one ever told me that. Everyone just said we were cursed. Bad luck. Because people fear what they don't understand, Damien said, reaching across the table to take my hand. And because there are wolves who benefit from making others feel inferior. It keeps them in power. His thumb traced circles on the back of my hand, and I felt warmth spreading through my chest at the simple contact. We'd been growing closer over the past weeks, but he'd never touched me like this before, with such obvious tenderness. "What about you?" I asked, trying to distract myself from the way my heart was racing. "What's your story? How did you become Alpha King so young?" Damien's expression darkened. The previous Alpha King, my father, wasn't a good man. He ruled through fear and cruelty, turning pack against pack to maintain his power. When I was old enough to challenge him, I did. The battle lasted 3 days, and when it was over, he was dead, and I was crowned the new Alpha King. "You killed your own father?" I whispered, shocked. "I did what had to be done to protect the packs under his rule," Damien said, his voice hard. "He would have destroyed everything if he'd remained in power. Sometimes the hardest choices are the necessary ones." I could see the pain in his eyes, the weight of that decision still heavy on his shoulders even years later. Without thinking, I squeezed his hand tighter. "You did the right thing. I can tell you're a good alpha. The way the palace staff talks about you, the way Marie looks at you with such loyalty, you've earned their respect and trust." "Not everyone feels that way," he said with a slight smile, as Charlotte so helpfully demonstrated. "Charlotte was wrong," I said firmly. "You're not weak for showing kindness. You're stronger for it." We sat there for a moment, hands clasped across the table, something unspoken building between us. Then Damien cleared his throat and pulled back, and the moment was broken. "I should let you get some rest," he said, standing up. "Dr. Martinez said you need plenty of sleep." I nodded, trying to hide my disappointment. But as I stood to leave, Damien caught my hand again. "Emma," he said softly, "I'm glad you're here. I want you to know that." "I'm glad I'm here too," I admitted, more than I can say. That night, lying in Damien's enormous bed, I stared up at the ceiling and tried to sort through my confusing emotions. I was developing feelings for the Alpha King. There was no point denying it. The way my heart raced when he entered a room, the way I looked forward to our evening conversations, the way his touch made my skin tingle. These weren't just feelings of gratitude, but I was also 6 months pregnant with another man's child. What kind of future could there possibly be between us? Luna stirred in my mind, stronger now than she'd been in months. "He's a good alpha," she said. "His wolf recognizes us. There's a bond there." "His wolf might recognize us," I thought back to her. "But that doesn't mean he feels the same way I do. He's just being kind to someone who needed help." "You're an idiot if you believe that," Luna said bluntly. "The way he looks at you, the way his scent changes when you're near, that's not just kindness." I wanted to believe her, but I'd been hurt too badly by Jake's betrayal to trust my instincts about men anymore. Better to focus on what I knew for certain. Damien had offered me safety and protection until my pup was born. After that, I'd figure out what came next. Still thinking about pack dynamics and power? Good, because things are about to get a lot more complicated. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the moment when Emma's past comes knocking on the palace doors. The following evening, I was reading in the library when raised voices echoed from down the hall. I set down my book, concern prickling at the back of my neck. I'd never heard anyone raise their voice in the palace before. Damien's authority was too absolute for that. Curiosity and worry warring within me, I made my way toward the sound. As I approached Damien's office, I could make out multiple voices, all angry, all talking over each other. Completely unacceptable, Your Majesty. Questioning your judgment. Needs to be resolved immediately before. Enough! Damien's voice cut through the chaos like a whip. I am the Alpha King. I don't need to justify my decisions to any of you. With all due respect, Your Majesty, an older male voice said, dripping with condescension. Taking in a pregnant Omega of questionable background reflects poorly on the crown. The other packs are beginning to question whether you have the judgment necessary to lead. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. They were talking about me. I was causing exactly the kind of problems Charlotte had warned about. My personal life is not up for council review, Damien said, his voice dangerously quiet. Emma is under my protection, and that's final. And what happens when she gives birth? Another voice asked. Are you planning to raise another man's bastard child as part of the royal household? Have you thought about how that will look? I've thought about it plenty, Damien growled, and I don't give a damn what it looks like. Your Majesty, please be reasonable, the older voice cajoled. We're not saying you need to throw her out immediately, but perhaps relocating her to one of the pack houses would be more appropriate. Somewhere she could raise her child away from the scrutiny of the court. I didn't wait to hear Damien's response. I'd heard enough. Moving as quietly as I could, I retreated back to the bedroom, my mind racing. They were right. I didn't belong here. My presence was causing problems for Damien, making the council question his authority. And what was I thinking? Developing feelings for him. He was the Alpha King, and I was just a homeless white wolf Omega carrying another man's child. I had to leave. The decision made, I moved quickly. I didn't have much to pack. Just the few clothes Damien had bought for me and the small amount of money Marie had helped me save from the palace household funds. It wasn't much, but it would be enough to get me started somewhere far away from here. I was just putting on my coat when the door burst open and Damien strode in, his face a mask of fury that immediately shifted to concern when he saw what I was doing. What are you doing? He demanded. I'm leaving, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I heard the council meeting. They're right. I'm causing problems for you. I should go. Absolutely not. Damien crossed the room in 3 long strides, taking the coat out of my hands. You're not leaving? I have to, I insisted, trying to take the coat back. Don't you see? As long as I'm here, they're going to question your judgment. They're going to use me against you. I won't be responsible for undermining your authority. They're not questioning my authority because of you, Damien said, gripping my shoulders gently but firmly. They're questioning it because they're power-hungry bastards who want to control me. If it wasn't you, they'd find something else. That's what they do. But I'm making it easy for them, I argued, tears starting to stream down my face. I'm giving them ammunition. A pregnant white wolf living in the Alpha King's personal quarters? That's exactly the kind of scandal they can use. Let them try, Damien said fiercely. I'll face down the entire council if I have to. You're not leaving, Emma. I won't let you. Why? I demanded, my composure finally cracking. Why do you care so much? I'm nobody. Just some random Omega you found under a bridge. Why are you willing to fight your own council for me? Damien stared at me for a long moment, emotions warring in his silver eyes. Then, so quietly I almost didn't hear it, he said, because you're my mate. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. What? I whispered. You're my mate, he repeated, more firmly this time. The moment I caught your scent beneath that bridge, my wolf knew. That's why I couldn't leave you there. That's why I've been fighting the council. That's why I've been trying so hard to make sure you feel safe and cared for here. I stood frozen, unable to process what he was saying. But I'm pregnant with another man's child. I know, Damien said gently, reaching up to wipe tears from my cheeks. And I don't care. That pup will be mine in every way that matters. I'll love them as my own, protect them as my own, raise them as my own, if you'll let me. I don't understand, I said, my voice breaking. Why would you want me? I'm a white wolf. I'm weak. I'm damaged. I come with so much baggage. You're not weak, Damien interrupted fiercely. You're the strongest person I've ever met. You survived on the streets in winter while pregnant. You fought to protect your pup when you had nothing and no one. You're still standing after being betrayed by someone you loved. That's not weakness, Emma. That's incredible strength. But the council? Fuck the council. His words were harsh, but his touch was gentle as he cupped my face in his hands. I'm the Alpha King. I can choose my own mate. And I choose you. If they don't like it, they can leave. I'm not giving you up. Not now. Not ever. I searched his eyes, looking for any sign of deception or ulterior motive. But all I saw was sincerity and something that looked a lot like love. I'm falling for you too, I admitted in a whisper. I tried not to. I tried to tell myself you were just being kind, but these past weeks, getting to know you, spending time with you, I'm falling for you, and it terrifies me. Why does it terrify you? Damien asked softly. Because the last time I trusted someone with my heart, they threw me away like garbage, I said, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. Because I don't know if I can survive being hurt like that again. I'm not Jake, Damien said firmly. I will never, ever hurt you the way he did. You're my mate, Emma. My wolf has chosen you. In our world, that's sacred. That's forever. Forever is a long time, I whispered. Not long enough, he replied, and then his lips were on mine. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, as if he was afraid I might pull away. But when I melted into him, when I wrapped my arms around his neck and kissed him back with all the emotion I'd been holding inside, it deepened into something fierce and claiming. When we finally broke apart, both breathless, Damien rested his forehead against mine. Stay, he whispered. Please stay. Not as my guest, not as someone under my protection. Stay as my mate. Let me claim you properly. Let me give you and your pup my name and my protection forever. I should have been cautious. I should have taken more time to think about it. But looking into his eyes, feeling the rightness of his arms around me, I knew there was only one answer I could give. Yes, I said. I'll stay. The smile that broke across his face was like the sun coming out after a storm. He kissed me again, and this time it was full of joy and promise, and hope for a future I'd thought I'd lost forever. I love you, he murmured against my lips. I know it's too soon to say it, but I don't care. I love you, Emma. I think I've loved you since the moment I saw you under that bridge, fighting so hard to survive. I love you too, I admitted, and saying the words felt like finally coming home. I'm scared, and I don't know how this is all going to work, but I love you. We'll figure it out together, Damien promised. One day at a time. That night, for the first time since Damien had brought me to the palace, he didn't go sleep in the guest room. He climbed into bed beside me, pulling me carefully into his arms and holding me close. Is this okay? He asked, his hand resting gently on my swollen belly. I don't want to make you uncomfortable. It's perfect, I said, snuggling deeper into his embrace. For the first time in months, I felt completely safe and completely loved. As I drifted off to sleep, I felt my pup kick against Damien's hand. He laughed softly, the sound full of wonder. Hello there, little one, he whispered. I'm going to be your daddy. And I promise you, I'm going to love you and your mama with everything I have. Another kick, as if the pup approved. They like you, I murmured sleepily. Good, Damien said, pressing a kiss to the top of my head. Because I plan on being around for a very long time. Think a royal mating announcement is going to calm the council down? Think again. Hit that like button if you want to see what happens when an alpha king chooses love over politics. The next morning, I woke to find Damien already dressed in formal attire, standing by the window and looking out over the palace grounds. What's wrong? I asked, sitting up carefully. He turned to face me, and I saw determination written across his features. I'm calling an emergency council meeting. It's time to make our relationship official. My heart started pounding. Are you sure? Maybe we should wait. Give them time to adjust to the idea. No more waiting, Damien said firmly, crossing to sit beside me on the bed. They're going to find out anyway, and I won't have them thinking I'm ashamed of you or trying to hide our relationship. You're going to be my mate and the future queen. The council needs to accept that. Future queen? I repeated faintly. Damien, I don't know how to be a queen. I grew up in an orphanage and worked in a diner. I don't know anything about politics or court etiquette or... You know how to be strong, he interrupted gently. You know how to survive. You know how to love and protect those who depend on you. That's what makes a good queen. Not fancy manners or political games. The council is going to fight you on this. Let them try. His eyes flashed silver. I'm done letting them think they have any say in my personal life. You're my mate. That's all that matters. 3 hours later, I stood outside the council chambers, my hands trembling as I smoothed down the elegant dress Marie had helped me into. It was a deep emerald green that somehow made my white blonde hair look more striking rather than washed out. You look beautiful, Damien said, appearing beside me. He was in full Alpha King regalia, formal suit, the crown of office, an aura of power that made even me want to submit. Are you ready? No, I admitted. But let's do this anyway. He smiled and took my hand, lacing our fingers together. That's my brave mate. The council chamber fell silent the moment we entered. 20 wolves sat around a massive table, all of them turning to stare at us, or more specifically, at our joined hands, with varying expressions of shock, disapproval, and in a few cases, barely concealed fury. Your Majesty, Elder Marcus, the wolf who'd been questioning Damien's judgment during the meeting I'd overheard, stood up. We weren't informed that this meeting would include guests. Emma is not a guest, Damien said, his voice ringing with authority. She is my mate. And from this point forward, she will be treated as such. The silence that followed was deafening. Your Majesty. Another council member, a middle-aged woman named Diana, spoke up carefully. Surely you're not suggesting... I'm not suggesting anything, Damien cut her off. I'm telling you, Emma is my chosen mate. In 3 months, after her pup is born and she's recovered, we will hold the formal mating ceremony. At that time, she will become your queen. This is outrageous. Elder Marcus slammed his hand on the table. The Alpha King cannot just choose some random Omega off the streets to be queen. There are protocols, traditions, bloodlines to consider. I am the Alpha King, Damien said, his voice dropping to a dangerous growl. I can choose whoever I damn well please as my mate. Or have you forgotten who makes the rules in this territory? Of course not, Your Majesty, Elder Marcus said quickly, though his eyes flashed with anger. But surely you must see how this looks. She's a white wolf. Careful, Damien warned. Very careful about what you say next. With no family, no background, no education in courtly matters. She's pregnant with another man's child. How can you expect us to accept her as our queen? Because I'm telling you to, Damien said flatly. Emma will be my mate and your queen. Anyone who has a problem with that is welcome to challenge me directly. Otherwise, You will treat her with the respect her position demands. I squeezed Damien's hand, drawing his attention. It's okay, I said softly. They have valid concerns. No, they don't, Damien argued. Yes, they do, I insisted, then turned to address the council directly. My voice shook at first, but grew stronger as I continued. You're right that I have no experience with court life. You're right that I have no important family connections. You're right that I'm carrying a child that isn't the Alpha King's. Emma, Damien started, but I held up a hand. But what you're wrong about, I continued, is that any of those things matter. I don't need a fancy background to understand what it means to serve. I've spent my life working hard, surviving, taking care of others. I might not know the first thing about being a queen, but I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to work for it. And most importantly, I love your Alpha King, and I will stand by his side and support him in every way I can. I turned back to Damien. But I also won't let your council divide because of me. If my presence is going to cause this much conflict, maybe we should reconsider. Absolutely not, Damien said firmly. Emma, you're not backing down, and neither am I. Young lady, an older woman at the far end of the table spoke up. I recognized her from Marie's descriptions, Elder Sarah, one of the most respected members of the council. May I ask you something? Of course, I said nervously. Why do you love him? The question caught me off guard. What? You said you love the Alpha King. I want to know why. What is it about him that made you fall in love? I looked at Damien, then back at Elder Sarah. Because he saw me when everyone else looked through me. Because he showed me kindness when I'd forgotten what that felt like. Because he's strong enough to lead an entire territory, but gentle enough to hold me when I cry. Because he makes me want to be better. Do better. Be worthy of the faith he's placed in me. Elder Sarah was quiet for a moment, studying me with sharp eyes. Then she nodded slowly. That's a good answer. The right answer. Sarah? Elder Marcus started. Oh, be quiet, Marcus, Elder Sarah said dismissively. You've been looking for an excuse to undermine His Majesty since the day he took the crown. This isn't about the girl at all. It's about you wanting more power. How dare you? I dare because it's true. Elder Sarah stood up, her authority evident despite her age. I've been on this council for 40 years. I served the previous Alpha King, may his soul find peace, and now I serve his son. And I will tell you all what I've learned in those 40 years. A good Alpha is one who leads with both strength and compassion. The previous Alpha King had strength but no compassion. He ruled through fear, and it nearly destroyed us all. She turned to look at Damien. Your Majesty has shown us what it means to lead with both. He's made difficult decisions, yes. He's shown mercy when it was warranted and strength when it was necessary. And now he's made a choice about his personal life. A choice that reflects both his strength in standing against our prejudices and his compassion in offering protection to someone who needed it. Elder Sarah looked around at the other council members. If we reject his choice of mate based on superficial concerns about bloodline and status, what does that say about us? Are we really so mired in tradition that we can't see the value in someone who's proven their strength through survival? Are we really going to punish a woman for the circumstances of her birth? But the child, another council member started. The child will be the Alpha King's heir, raised as his own, Elder Sarah said firmly. Or have you all forgotten that adoption and fostering are honored traditions among our kind? Some of the greatest alphas in history were not born to the throne, but chosen for it. The council chamber erupted in heated discussion, voices rising and falling as members argued among themselves. I stood there holding Damien's hand, trying not to shake, wondering if I'd just made everything worse. Finally, Elder Sarah's voice cut through the chaos. I call for a vote. All in favor of accepting Emma as the Alpha King's chosen mate and future queen, stand. My heart pounded as I watched the council members. Elder Sarah stood immediately. Then Diana, the middle-aged woman who'd questioned Damien earlier. One by one, others rose to their feet, until more than half the council was standing. Elder Marcus remained seated, glaring at us with undisguised hatred. About 6 other council members stayed seated with him, but they were clearly in the minority. The vote carries, Elder Sarah announced. Emma is officially recognized as the Alpha King's mate-to-be. The formal mating ceremony will take place 3 months from now, as His Majesty stated. Until then, she will be afforded all the respect and protection due to her position. Elder Marcus stood abruptly. This is not over, he said coldly, looking directly at me. Mark my words, girl. You may have won this battle, but you don't belong here. You will never be accepted as our queen. That's enough, Marcus, Damien said, his voice deadly quiet. You've made your opinion clear. Now sit down and remember your place, or I'll be happy to remind you of it. For a moment it looked like Elder Marcus might challenge Damien right there. Then he seemed to think better of it, giving a curt nod before stalking out of the council chamber with his supporters following behind. The remaining council members came forward to offer their congratulations, though I could tell some of them were still uncertain about the whole situation. Elder Sarah was the last to approach, taking my hand in hers with a warm smile. You did well, child, she said, standing up for yourself while also showing respect for their concerns. That took wisdom. Thank you, I said gratefully. And thank you for speaking up for me. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't. The same thing, Elder Sarah said with a knowing look. His Majesty would have fought for you regardless. But it's better this way, with the council's support, rather than over their objections. Now, you have a lot to learn before the mating ceremony. I'll arrange for instructors to teach you everything you need to know about being queen. After the council meeting, Damien and I retreated to his office. The moment the door closed behind us, I collapsed into a chair, suddenly exhausted. That was terrifying, I admitted. You were magnificent, Damien said, kneeling in front of my chair and taking my hands. The way you stood up to them, the way you spoke from the heart. I've never been more proud. I still don't think I can do this, I said honestly. Be queen, I mean. It's so much bigger than I ever imagined. You can, Damien assured me. And you will. And I'll be right there beside you every step of the way. I leaned forward and kissed him, pouring all my gratitude and love and lingering fear into the gesture. When we broke apart, I rested my forehead against his. I love you, I whispered. I love you too, he replied, more than I ever thought possible. The next 3 months passed in a blur of lessons and preparations. Elder Sarah made good on her promise, arranging for tutors to teach me everything from court etiquette to pack law to the history of the Northern Territory. I studied until my head hurt, determined to prove that I could be the queen Damien believed I could be. Marie became not just my attendant but my closest friend, helping me navigate the complex social dynamics of palace life. She warned me about which council members still held grudges, which ones could be trusted, and which ones were simply waiting to see what kind of queen I would become. Dr. Martinez continued monitoring my pregnancy, which was progressing normally and healthily. My pup, our daughter, we learned, was growing strong. Have you thought about names? Damien asked one evening as we lay in bed together, his hand resting on my very swollen belly. I was thinking maybe Luna, I suggested tentatively. After my wolf. She's been through so much with me. Luna, Damien repeated, testing the name. Luna Blackwood. I love it. You're really going to claim her as yours? I asked, even though we'd discussed it many times before. Even though she's not your blood? Emma, I've told you 100 times, Damien said, rolling onto his side to look at me seriously. Biology doesn't make a father. Love makes a father. Luna will be my daughter in every way that matters. I'll love her, protect her, guide her, just as I would any child of my blood. She'll carry my name, inherit my legacy, and never doubt for a moment that she is wanted and cherished. Tears streamed down my face. Pregnancy hormones made me cry at everything these days. How did I get so lucky to find you? I'm the lucky one, Damien insisted, wiping my tears away gently. You and Luna are the best things that have ever happened to me. Don't go anywhere, because the moment you've been waiting for is almost here. The mating ceremony that will change everything. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you catch every moment. 2 weeks before the scheduled mating ceremony, I went into labor 3 weeks early. I'd been in the library, reading up on trade agreements between packs, when my water broke. The pain hit immediately after, intense and overwhelming. Marie! I called out, gripping the table for support. Marie, the baby's coming. Within minutes, the palace was in organized chaos. Dr. Martinez appeared with his medical bag, Damien materialized from wherever he'd been working, and I was rushed to the medical wing that had been prepared for this exact moment. It's too early, I gasped between contractions. She's not supposed to come yet. What if something's wrong? 3 weeks early is perfectly safe, Dr. Martinez assured me, checking my vital signs. Babies come when they're ready. Luna is just eager to meet her parents. The labor was long and difficult. Hours blurred together in a haze of pain and exhaustion. Damien never left my side, holding my hand, whispering encouragement, being my anchor in the storm. You're doing so well, he kept saying. You're so strong, Emma. So brave. I can't do this. I sobbed at one point when the pain became almost unbearable. It hurts too much. Yes, you can, Damien said firmly, his silver eyes locked on mine. You're the strongest person I know. You can do this. Bring our daughter into the world. Our daughter. Not my daughter, but ours. The certainty in his voice gave me strength I didn't know I had. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I heard the most beautiful sound in the world, Luna's first cry. She's perfect, Dr. Martinez said, placing the tiny crying bundle on my chest. Absolutely perfect. I looked down at my daughter for the first time, and my heart shattered and rebuilt itself in the same instant. She was beautiful, tiny and red-faced and screaming her lungs out with a shock of white blonde hair just like mine. Hello, Luna, I whispered through my tears. I'm your mama. I've been waiting so long to meet you. Damien leaned over us both, his hand gently touching Luna's tiny head. And I'm your daddy, he said softly. Welcome to the world, little one. Luna's cries quieted at the sound of his voice, and her eyes, already showing hints of the silver they would become, opened to look up at us both. In that moment, looking at my daughter and the man I loved, I felt complete in a way I never had before. She has your eyes, I said to Damien, awed. She has your strength, he replied, and I could see tears glistening in his eyes. Our beautiful daughter. The next few days passed in a blur of feeding schedules, diaper changes, and the profound exhaustion of new parenthood. But I'd never been happier. Watching Damien with Luna, the way he held her so carefully, like she was made of glass, the way he got up for night feedings, without complaint, the way he looked at her with such pure, unconditional love, made me fall even more deeply in love with him. You're a natural, I told him one evening, watching him rock Luna to sleep. I'm terrified I'm going to break her, he admitted. She's so small. You're doing perfectly, I assured him. She already loves you. Look at how she calms down when you hold her. It was true. Luna had already developed a preference for being held by Damien, settling instantly when he picked her up. Because she knows her daddy will always protect her, Damien said, looking down at our daughter with wonder. Just like I'll always protect her mama. The formal mating ceremony had been postponed until I recovered from childbirth, but we didn't need a ceremony to feel like a family. We already were one. 2 weeks after Luna's birth, I woke in the middle of the night to find Damien standing by her crib, just watching her sleep. Is everything okay? I asked softly, coming to stand beside him. Everything's perfect, he said, wrapping an arm around my waist and pulling me close. I was just thinking about how much my life has changed. 6 months ago, I was alone, buried in work, convinced I'd never find my mate. And now you're sleep-deprived and covered in baby spit-up, I finished with a smile. He laughed quietly. Now I have everything I ever wanted. You and Luna, you're my whole world. I leaned my head on his shoulder, both of us watching our daughter sleep peacefully. We're pretty lucky too, you know. Not every pup gets a daddy who chose to love them before they were even born. She's mine, Damien said simply. Blood or not, she's my daughter. And anyone who suggests otherwise will answer to me. A week later, I was in the nursery feeding Luna when Marie rushed in, her face pale. What's wrong? I asked immediately. Jake is here, Marie said. He's demanding to see you and claiming parental rights to Luna. My blood ran cold. What? He showed up at the palace gates with a lawyer, saying he's Luna's biological father and demanding access to her. The guards are holding him at the entrance, but he's making a scene. I looked down at Luna, who was suckling contentedly, completely unaware of the threat to her happiness. He can't have her. He rejected her before she was even born. I know, Marie said. His Majesty is handling it, but I thought you should know. I finished feeding Luna and settled her in her crib, then made my way to the palace entrance, despite Marie's protests that I should stay away. When I arrived, I found Damien facing off against Jake, who looked just as I remembered, handsome, confident, and utterly lacking in conscience. Emma, Jake said when he saw me, his face breaking into a smile that made my skin crawl. Baby, thank God. Tell them to let me in. I want to meet our daughter. She's not your daughter, I said coldly. You rejected her. You threw me out. You have no rights here. I'm her biological father, Jake argued. That gives me rights, no matter what you or your new boyfriend think. Watch your tone, Damien growled, stepping between us protectively. Jake's lawyer, a sharp-eyed man in an expensive suit, spoke up. Under PAC law, Mr. Morrison has the right to petition for custody or visitation of his biological child, regardless of the circumstances of the conception. Not when he formally rejected the child before birth, Damien countered. Emma has documentation of Jake's rejection, including text messages where he stated explicitly that he wanted nothing to do with the pup. That constitutes legal abandonment under PAC law. Those messages were sent in the heat of the moment, Jake protested. I was scared, confused, but I've had time to think about it, and I want to be a part of my daughter's life. You had time to think about it? I repeated incredulously. You threw me out pregnant in the middle of winter. I could have died. Our daughter could have died. And now, after she's born healthy and safe, suddenly you want to be a father? People make mistakes, Jake said. I deserve a second chance. Why now? Damien asked sharply. Why show up now, demanding rights to a child you rejected? What changed? Jake's face twitched slightly, a tell I recognized from our time together. He was lying about something. I told you, I had time to think. Bullshit, I said. You don't care about Luna. So what do you really want? Jake's expression hardened, the nice guy act dropping away. Fine. You want the truth? Word got around that the Alpha King claimed your bastard as his own. Do you have any idea what kind of status that gives her? What kind of inheritance she's entitled to? I'd be an idiot not to claim my share. The admission hung in the air like a bomb. There it is, Damien said quietly, dangerously. You don't want a daughter. You want access to my wealth and power. I want what's rightfully mine, Jake shot back. That kid is mine biologically. I deserve compensation for giving up my rights to her. You want me to pay you? Damien asked, his voice deadly calm. To give you money in exchange for staying away from Emma and Luna? It's only fair, Jake said with a shrug. You're taking my kid. You should pay me for her. I felt sick. This was the man I'd once loved, now trying to sell his own child like property. Get out, Damien said, his voice ringing with alpha command so powerful that even I felt the urge to submit. Get out of my territory. If you ever come near Emma or Luna again, I will rip you apart myself. You rejected them when they needed you most. You don't get to come crawling back now looking for a payday. You can't threaten me, Jake blustered, though he'd already taken a step back from the force of Damien's command. I'll sue. I'll go to the Pack Council. You'll do nothing. Elder Sarah's voice rang out. I turned to see her approaching, with several other council members, all looking grim. We heard everything, Jake Morrison. Your attempt to extort the Alpha King for money in exchange for abandoning your parental rights is illegal under Pack law. You're hereby banned from the Northern Territory. If you return, you'll be arrested. You can't do this, Jake shouted. We just did, Elder Sarah said calmly. You have 1 hour to leave the territory. After that, you'll be forcibly removed. Jake looked between all of us, seeming to realize he'd lost. His face twisted into an ugly sneer. You think you've won? You think this is some fairy tale where the broken Omega gets her happy ending with the rich Alpha King? You're still the same worthless white wolf I threw away. He'll figure that out eventually. Before I could even process the words, Damien had Jake by the throat, lifting him off the ground with one hand. Listen very carefully, Damien said, his voice dripping with lethal promise. If I ever hear that you've said one word against Emma, if you ever even think her name, I will hunt you down and make you regret you were ever born. She is worth 1,000 of you. She is my mate, Luna's mother, and the future queen of this territory. And you are nothing. Now get out of my sight before I forget I'm trying to set a good example for my daughter. He dropped Jake, who scrambled backward, fear finally showing in his eyes. Without another word, Jake and his lawyer fled. I stood there shaking, Damien's arms immediately around me. He's gone, he murmured. He can't hurt you anymore. He never wanted her, I said, tears streaming down my face. He never wanted our baby. He just saw an opportunity to get money. I know, Damien said gently, but Luna will never know that. She'll only know that she has parents who love her more than anything in the world. Elder Sarah approached us, her expression kind. Are you all right, dear? I nodded, wiping my tears. Thank you for standing up for us. You're family now, Elder Sarah said simply. We protect our own. Speaking of which, I think we should move up the mating ceremony. Make it official before anyone else gets ideas about challenging your union. The sooner the better, Damien agreed, looking down at me. What do you say? Ready to become queen? I looked back toward the palace where our daughter slept peacefully, unaware of the drama that had just unfolded. Then I looked at Damien, the man who'd saved me, loved me, chosen me and my daughter when we had nothing. Yes, I said, I'm ready. You think Jake's appearance was the end of the drama? Oh, you sweet summer child, subscribe now because the mating ceremony is coming, and not everyone in the pack is ready to bow down to a white wolf queen. The mating ceremony was scheduled for the following week, giving us just enough time to prepare. The entire palace was a flurry of activity: servants preparing the great hall, seamstresses finishing my ceremonial gown, kitchen staff preparing the feast that would follow the ceremony. I spent my days in a whirlwind of final lessons with Elder Sarah, learning the words I would have to speak, the rituals I would have to perform, the responsibilities I would be taking on. At night, I would feed Luna and rock her to sleep, Damien by my side, both of us marveling at how much our lives had changed. "Are you nervous?" Marie asked the morning of the ceremony as she helped me into my gown. It was beautiful: white silk with silver embroidery, designed to accommodate the fact that I was still recovering from childbirth and not quite back to my pre-pregnancy body. Terrified, I admitted. What if I mess up the words? What if I trip walking down the aisle? What if... What if you stop worrying and trust that everything will be perfect? Marie interrupted gently. You've prepared for this, Emma. You're ready. What about Luna? I asked, looking over at the nursery where our daughter was napping. I hate leaving her even for a few hours. She'll be perfectly safe with her nanny, Marie assured me. And the ceremony won't be that long. Before you know it, you'll be back here with her, officially the Alpha King's mate and Queen of the Northern Territory. The ceremony was set to take place at sunset in the palace's great hall. As I made my way to the entrance, my heart pounding so hard I was sure everyone could hear it, I caught a glimpse of the hundreds of wolves gathered inside, representatives from every pack in the territory, council members, palace staff, visiting dignitaries, all of them here to witness me become queen. Last chance to run, Elder Sarah said with a smile as she walked beside me. Don't tempt me, I joked weakly. You'll do beautifully, she said, patting my hand. I've been to dozens of mating ceremonies in my life, and I've never seen an Alpha King look at his mate-to-be the way Damien looks at you. That man loves you with everything he is. The doors to the great hall opened, and I saw Damien standing at the far end in full ceremonial regalia, the crown of office on his head. Our eyes met across the distance, and I saw such love and pride in his gaze that my nervousness melted away. This was right. This was where I belonged. I walked down the aisle alone. I had no family to escort me, and we'd decided that was fitting. I was walking into this new life of my own free will, my own choice, my own strength. When I reached Damien, he took my hands in his touch warm and reassuring. You look beautiful, he whispered. You're not so bad yourself, I whispered back, making him smile. Elder Sarah stepped forward to perform the ceremony. We are gathered here to witness the mating bond between Alpha King Damien Blackwood and Emma, formerly of No Pack, now to become Emma Blackwood, Queen of the Northern Territory. She turned to Damien. Do you, Damien Blackwood, take this woman as your mate? Do you vow to protect her, provide for her, honor her, and love her for all your days? I do, Damien said, his voice clear and strong. And do you, Elder Sarah turned to me, Emma, take this man as your mate? Do you vow to stand beside him, support him, honor him, and love him for all your days? I do, I said, my voice shaking slightly but sincere. Then, by the power vested in me by pack law and ancient tradition, I declare you mated. May your bond be strong, your love unshakable, and your reign blessed. Damien pulled me close and kissed me, and the great hall erupted in applause. When we broke apart, I saw tears in his eyes matching my own. My queen, he murmured. My alpha, I replied. We turned to face the assembled wolves, and Damien's voice rang out with alpha command. I present to you Emma Blackwood, my mate and your queen. The applause was deafening. Most of the wolves stood, showing their respect and acceptance. But I noticed a few, including Elder Marcus and his supporters, remained seated, their faces dark with disapproval. Ignore them, Damien whispered in my ear. You don't need their approval. You have mine. and that's all that matters. The feast that followed was incredible. Long tables laden with food, music filling the air, wolves from across the territory coming to offer their congratulations. I met so many people that my head spun trying to remember all their names and titles. "You're doing wonderfully," Elder Sarah said, appearing at my elbow. "A natural queen already." "I'm terrified I'm going to say the wrong thing to someone important," I admitted. "Then you'll apologize and move on," she said practically. "Perfection isn't the goal, Emma. Being genuine is." As the evening wore on, I began to relax and actually enjoy myself. Damien never left my side, his hand always touching mine, his presence a constant source of strength and comfort. But as the night drew to a close and we prepared to retire to our chambers, Elder Marcus approached us. "Congratulations on your mating," he said, his voice dripping with false civility. "I'm sure you'll both be very happy." "Thank you, Elder Marcus," Damien said coolly. "Was there something else?" "Just a reminder, Your Majesty, that tradition holds the new queen should produce an heir within the first year of mating," Marcus said, looking at me with barely concealed contempt. "Of course you already have one child, though not of your own blood. It will be interesting to see if the queen can provide a legitimate heir." I felt Damien tense beside me, preparing to tear into Marcus. But something in me snapped. I was done letting wolves like him make me feel inferior. "Luna is our legitimate heir," I said clearly, my voice carrying authority I'd learned from weeks of training. "The Alpha King has claimed her as his own, which makes her his legal daughter under pack law. And whether we have more children or not is none of your concern, Elder Marcus. I suggest you focus on your few council duties rather than my reproductive plans." Marcus's face purpled with rage. "How dare you?" "How dare I interrupted, feeling my wolf rise up inside me, stronger than she'd been in years. "I'm your queen, Elder Marcus. That means you speak to me with respect, or you don't speak to me at all. Now, if you'll excuse us, my maid and I are retiring for the evening." I took Damien's arm and walked away, my head held high, leaving Marcus sputtering behind us. The moment we were alone in the hallway, Damien pulled me into his arms and kissed me thoroughly. "That," he said when we finally broke apart, "was the sexiest thing I've ever seen. The way you put Marcus in his place? God, I love you." "I'm tired of people like him making me feel small," I said. "I'm the queen now. It's time I started acting like it." "That's my girl," Damien said proudly. "Come on, let's go check on our daughter and then celebrate our mating properly." We found Luna awake in her nursery, making the little cooing sounds that meant she was happy and content. Damien picked her up, cradling her close. "Hello, princess," he said softly. "Your mama and I are officially mated now. That means you're officially a princess. What do you think about that?" Luna yawned and snuggled into his chest, apparently unimpressed by her new title. "She's already got the royal attitude down," I joked, stroking her soft hair. We spent the next hour just being a family, feeding Luna, changing her, playing with her tiny hands and feet. It was perfect and peaceful, and everything I'd never let myself hope for when I was homeless and alone. Later, after Luna was asleep and we were finally alone in our room, Damien pulled me close. "I have something for you," he said, producing a small velvet box from his pocket. Inside was a ring, not an engagement ring, but something more. A white gold band with a large diamond, surrounded by smaller stones that caught the light and threw rainbows across the walls. "It was my grandmother's," Damien said as he slipped it onto my finger. "She was the last queen before you who ruled with both strength and compassion. I think she would have loved you." I looked down at the ring, tears blurring my vision. "It's beautiful." "You're beautiful," Damien corrected, "inside and out. You've overcome so much, Emma. You've gone from homeless and alone to queen of the Northern Territory, from being told you were worthless to proving you're invaluable. I'm so incredibly proud of you. I couldn't have done any of it without you, I said, wrapping my arms around his neck. You saved me, Damien. In every way a person can be saved. You saved me too, he said seriously. I was alone, Emma, isolated by my position and my past. Then I found you, and suddenly I had a reason to be better, a reason to fight harder, a reason to believe in happy endings. We made love that night as mates for the first time, and it was different than before. Deeper, more meaningful, with the weight of our vows and our love and our future all wrapped up in every touch and kiss. Afterward, lying in his arms with my head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat, I felt completely and utterly content. I love you, I whispered. I love you too, he replied, pressing a kiss to the top of my head. My mate, my queen, the mother of my child, you're everything I ever wanted and more. Even though I come with baggage? I asked, only half joking. Especially because you come with baggage, he said. That baggage made you who you are. Strong, compassionate, resilient. I wouldn't change a single thing about your past because it brought you to me. I snuggled closer, feeling safe and loved and home. Think becoming queen solved all of Emma's problems? You clearly haven't been paying attention. Smash that like button and subscribe, because trust me, the real challenges are just beginning. The first few months of being queen were harder than I ever imagined. There were so many responsibilities: attending council meetings, hosting diplomatic dinners, visiting PACs across the territory, mediating disputes, learning the intricate politics of wolf society, and all while being a new mother to a demanding infant. There were days when I was so exhausted I could barely think straight. Days when I felt like I was failing at everything: being a queen, being a mother, being a mate. Days when the voice of doubt crept in, reminding me that I was just a white wolf omega playing dress-up, pretending to be something I could never truly be. I can't do this, I told Damien one night after a particularly difficult council meeting where Elder Marcus had questioned every single one of my suggestions. I'm not cut out for this. Maybe Marcus is right. Maybe I'm not queen material. Stop, Damien said firmly, taking my face in his hands. You are queen material. You are my queen. And anyone who says otherwise is going to answer to me. But I'm making mistakes. I don't know what I'm doing half the time. The other council members can see it. You're learning, Damien interrupted. Just like every new queen has to learn. You've only been in this position for a few months. Give yourself grace. But what if I fail? I whispered. What if I let you down? Let Luna down? You could never let us down, Damien said. Emma, you've already proven your strength 100 times over. You survived things that would have broken most wolves. You're raising our daughter with love and patience. You're standing up to council members who've been playing political games since before you were born. You're magnificent. His words helped, but the doubt still lingered. I was used to being dismissed, overlooked, told I wasn't good enough. Years of that conditioning didn't disappear just because I had a crown, but I kept trying. I studied harder, worked longer hours, pushed myself to be better. Elder Sarah became my mentor, teaching me the subtle arts of political maneuvering and diplomacy. Marie kept me grounded, reminding me to take breaks and spend time with Luna. And Damien was my rock, supporting me through every challenge, celebrating every victory, holding me together when I threatened to fall apart. 6 months into my reign as queen, a crisis erupted. A territorial dispute between two PACs in the eastern region threatened to escalate into open warfare. Traditionally, the Alpha King would have handled such matters personally, traveling to the disputed territory to mediate. but Damien was dealing with an illness outbreak in the northern packs and couldn't leave. "I'll go," I said during the emergency council meeting. The room fell silent. "Your Majesty," Elder Marcus said with barely concealed condescension, "surely you're not suggesting that you, with no experience in territorial disputes, travel alone to mediate what could become a violent conflict?" "I'm not suggesting it," I said calmly. "I'm stating it. The Alpha King cannot go. As queen, it's my duty to represent the crown in his absence." "This is absurd," Marcus sputtered. "You've been queen for 6 months. You have a young infant at home. You can't possibly— I can, and I will," I said firmly. "Unless you're suggesting that the queen has no authority to act independently of the Alpha King." That shut him up. To suggest such a thing would be to undermine the entire structure of our government. "I'll go with her," Elder Sarah said, "as an advisor. But the queen is right. This is within her authority and responsibility." Damien looked at me, concern and pride warring in his eyes. "Are you sure about this?" "No," I admitted. "But I'm going anyway. You taught me that being a leader means doing what's necessary, even when it's terrifying. This is what's necessary." 3 days later, I traveled to the Eastern Territory with Elder Sarah and a small contingent of guards. Luna stayed behind with Damien and her nanny, and leaving her was one of the hardest things I'd ever done. But I knew this was important. The disputed packs were the Riverside Pack and the Mountain Pack, and they'd been feuding over hunting grounds for the past 3 months. By the time I arrived, tempers were running hot, and violence seemed inevitable. I called a meeting with both alphas in neutral territory, a clearing in the forest between their lands. Alpha Reed of the Riverside Pack was a burly man with a scarred face and a short temper. Alpha Simmons of the Mountain Pack was lean and cunning, with eyes that assessed everything. "With all due respect, Your Majesty," Alpha Reed said when I outlined my plan for mediation, "this is pack business. We don't need some—" He paused, clearly catching himself before saying something insulting. "Some outsider telling us how to resolve our differences." "Some white wolf, you mean?" I said calmly, and his face colored. "It's fine, Alpha Reed. I know what I am. But I'm also your queen, and the Alpha King has charged me with maintaining peace in his territory. That means whether you like it or not, whether you respect me or not, you're going to sit down and work this out." "And if we refuse?" Alpha Simmons asked, his tone challenging. "Then I'll invoke the Alpha King's authority and redistribute both your territories to packs that can manage them without threatening civil war," I said, channeling every ounce of authority Damien had taught me. "Is that what you want? To lose everything your packs have built over a dispute about hunting grounds?" The two alphas exchanged glances. "I didn't think so," I continued. "Now, I've reviewed the territorial maps and the historical records. The hunting grounds in question have been used by both packs for decades, correct?" "Yes," Alpha Reed admitted reluctantly, "but they've always been considered primarily Riverside territory. And Mountain Pack has always had access during winter months when mountain game is scarce," Alpha Simmons added. "So the real issue isn't ownership," I said. "It's scheduling and communication. You're both trying to use the same resources at the same time, and neither of you is willing to coordinate." I spent the next 6 hours mediating between the two packs, working out a detailed agreement for shared use of the hunting grounds. There were moments when I thought it would fall apart, when tempers flared and threats were made. But I held firm, refusing to let either Alpha intimidate me or derail the negotiations. Finally, as the sun was setting, we had an agreement. Both packs would have specific times for hunting the disputed grounds, with a shared calendar managed by a neutral third party. Any violations would be reported directly to the palace and result in loss of access. "This is acceptable," Alpha Reed said grudgingly. "Agreed," Alpha Simmons added. "Then let's make it official," I said, pulling out the formal documents I'd had prepared. Both alphas signed, and just like that, the crisis was averted. As I prepared to leave the next morning, Alpha Reed approached me privately. "I owe you an apology, Your Majesty," he said, looking uncomfortable. "I underestimated you. I thought, well, it doesn't matter what I thought. You did good work here. You'll make a fine queen." "Thank you, Alpha Reed," I said, touched by his admission. "I know I'm not what anyone expected, but I'm trying my best." "Sometimes that's all anyone can do," he said with a gruff smile. When I returned to the palace, Damien was waiting at the entrance. The moment I stepped out of the car, he had me in his arms, kissing me like I'd been gone for months instead of days. "You did it," he said when we finally broke apart. "Elder Sarah sent word. You successfully mediated the dispute and prevented a war." "I was terrified the entire time," I admitted. "I kept thinking they were going to see through me, realize I had no idea what I was doing." "But you did it anyway," Damien said proudly. "That's what makes you a great queen, Emma. Not that you're fearless, but that you face your fears and do what needs to be done regardless." That night, at the next council meeting, even Elder Marcus had to acknowledge my success. "The Queen handled the Eastern Territory dispute admirably," he admitted, though he looked like the words pained him. "Both packs have reported satisfaction with the resolution." "Thank you, Elder Marcus," I said graciously, though we both knew this didn't mean he'd suddenly become my supporter. But I'd proven something important, to the council, to the other packs, and most importantly, to myself. I could do this. I could be the Queen Damien believed I was. Slowly but surely, I was growing into my role. The doubt didn't disappear completely. I suspect it never would. But I learned to push through it, to trust in my abilities, to believe in myself the way Damien believed in me. Luna was growing too, hitting all her milestones and developing the most adorable personality. She was a happy baby, always smiling, especially for her daddy. Watching Damien with her never failed to make my heart swell. He was such a devoted father, never missing a feeding or a diaper change, always finding time to play with her no matter how busy his schedule. "She said Dada today," I told him one evening, trying not to feel jealous that Luna's first word had been for him. Damien's face lit up like the sun. "She did? Luna, did you say Dada?" He picked her up, and she giggled, clearly delighted with his reaction. "Say it again, Princess. Say Dada." "Dada," Luna obliged, and Damien actually had tears in his eyes. "That's my girl," he said, kissing her chubby cheeks. Then he looked at me with such love and gratitude. "Thank you for giving me this, for giving me a family. I never thought I'd have this." "You gave us a family too," I said, joining their embrace. "We were nothing without you. You saved us." "We saved each other," Damien corrected. "That's what families do." As Luna's first birthday approached, we began planning a celebration. It would be my first time hosting a major event as queen, and I was determined to make it perfect. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Damien asked as we reviewed the guest list. "It's going to be a lot of work." "I want to do this," I said firmly. "Luna deserves a celebration, and I want to show everyone that we're a real family, that she's loved and wanted and valued." What I didn't say was that I also wanted to show everyone, especially those who still doubted me, that I could handle the responsibilities of being queen, that I belonged in this role. The party was scheduled for a warm summer evening in the palace gardens. We'd invited representatives from every pack in the territory, council members, palace staff, basically everyone who mattered in wolf society. I worked for weeks on the preparations, coordinating with the kitchen staff, the decorators, the entertainment. Marie helped immensely, and even Elder Sarah pitched in with suggestions based on past royal celebrations she'd attended. The day of the party, I was a nervous wreck. Everything had to be perfect. Breathe, Damien told me as we got dressed. It's going to be wonderful. What if something goes wrong? I fretted, adjusting my dress for the 100th time. What if the food isn't ready on time? What if Luna gets overwhelmed by all the people and has a meltdown? What if... Damien silenced me with a kiss. What if you stop worrying and enjoy celebrating our daughter's first birthday? That's what today is really about. Luna. Not impressing anyone or proving anything, just celebrating that incredible little girl we're lucky enough to call our daughter. He was right, of course. This was about Luna, not about me or my insecurities. The party was beautiful. The gardens were decorated with flowers and lights, creating a magical atmosphere. Long tables were laden with food, and a small stage had been set up for the entertainment we'd hired, musicians and performers who specialized in children's shows. Luna, dressed in an adorable white dress with a crown-shaped birthday hat, was the star of the show. She laughed and clapped at the performers, smeared birthday cake all over her face, and charmed everyone who met her. "She's precious," one visiting Alpha's wife said to me. "You and His Majesty must be so proud." "We are," I said, watching Damien play with Luna on the lawn. "She's our whole world." As the evening wore on and the guests began to leave, I found a moment to sit down and just watch my family. Damien was holding Luna, who was getting sleepy after her big day, swaying gently back and forth while talking to Elder Sarah. Marie sat down beside me. "You did it," she said with a smile. "Perfect party, happy baby, impressed guests. That's a win in my book." "Thank you for all your help," I said. "I couldn't have done this without you." "Yes, you could have," Marie disagreed. "You're stronger than you give yourself credit for, Emma. You always have been." As if sensing my gaze, Damien looked over and smiled at me. That private smile that was just for me, full of love and promise and shared joy. In that moment, looking at my mate and our daughter, surrounded by friends and pack members who'd come to celebrate with us, I realized something profound. I'd spent so much time worrying about whether I deserved this life, whether I belonged here, whether I was good enough. But I'd been asking the wrong questions. The real question wasn't whether I deserved this. It was whether I was grateful for it, whether I would fight to protect it, whether I would do whatever it took to be worthy of the trust Damien and Luna had placed in me. And the answer to all those questions was an unequivocal yes. I was Emma Blackwood, Queen of the Northern Territory, mate to the Alpha King, mother to Princess Luna, and I was exactly where I belonged. The journey hadn't been easy. There would still be challenges ahead. Elder Marcus and his supporters weren't going to suddenly start supporting me, and there would always be wolves who judged me for my white wolf heritage or my past. But I had Damien by my side, Luna in my arms, and a growing confidence in my own abilities. I had faced down my demons, overcome my past, and built a new life from the ashes of my old one. And I wasn't done yet. I had a territory to help govern, a pack to lead, a daughter to raise, and a mate to love for the rest of my very long life. Whatever challenges came next, I was ready to face them. Because I wasn't that scared, homeless girl under the bridge anymore. I was a queen, a mate, a mother, a survivor. And nothing, not prejudice, not doubt, not fear, was going to take that away from me. I stood up and walked over to my family, wrapping my arms around both Damien and Luna. "I love you both so much," I said. "We love you too," Damien replied, kissing the top of my head. "My beautiful, strong, incredible mate. I'm the luckiest alpha alive." Luna yawned and snuggled between us, her little hand gripping my finger. My family, my pack, my home. Finally, after so long, I was exactly where I was meant to be. The end. If Emma's story moved you, Wait until you hear what happens to her sister-in-law in the next video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment of these incredible werewolf romance stories. Like this video if you want to see more Alpha Kings who choose love over duty, and drop a comment telling me which moment was your favorite. See you in the next one.